Yes, Super Bowl Sunday here at the Voice of College Football. Great to see all of you on a Super Sunday 57. 57 of these. Good Lord. We'll be at triple digits before you know it. Welcome into the Voice of College Football. We've left the link in the live chat. Would like to talk Super Bowl, college football, anything that is football we will discuss here on Super Sunday with kickoff just about an hour and 30 minutes away. For those of you who have taken part in all the pregame festivities that I can't imagine when pregame starts these days. When did they start this ridiculous pregame stuff on these channels? It's got to be, it used to be years ago. I really haven't sat down and watched pregame, of course, flipping around during the afternoon, and it's usually not that nice outside, so there's not a whole lot to do. But so I've checked in with pregame through the years, but I probably, since my younger days of being just an NFL addict, and even later when I was still an NFL addict, I was done with the NFL pregames, and I was done with Super Bowl pregame in particular. So didn't touch Super Bowl pregame for a long, long time and still haven't. So really, I flipped by one of the pregames, and I guess the entertainment was supposed to be that their analysts were giving us preview analysis on the two teams while eating wings. So they were giving us pretty much cliched, everybody knows, obvious analysis of the Eagles and the Chiefs, but the entertainment factor was supposed to be that they were doing it while eating wings. All right, so I kept moving from there, and then I checked in with another pregame at some point. World War II documentaries have been my entertainment and my stimulation intellectually over the last probably hour to 2 hours. All right, we will fire up the phone lines here at the Voice of College Football. We are well prepared to talk Eagles and Chiefs. We will talk college as well. But before we take our first call, I need to make one amendment to the set here. And then you will need to let me know why I made this change. It is very appropriate. Let's see. It is very appropriate that we go Florida, and here we are. How about that? And no, we are not commemorating or reliving the 2008 BCS championship game, but Florida, Oklahoma, we will feature on the set for this Super Sunday. All right. And reminder, the Great Oreo Challenge is coming soon. Get ready. Welcome in the Voice of College Football. The real MVPs here.
Hey, Mark, how you doing? This fun pre-game edition.
So, do you get nervous? Are you excited?
No, the first one I was nervous. And then after, this is the third or fourth time Kansas City's been in it recently.
Yeah.
So it's just an expectation at this point to be here.
Oh, you just take this for granted now, going to the Super Bowl, because you've been to 3.
Yes, out of the last 4.
Okay. All right. You may appreciate this someday. Things change quickly.
Well, I take it for granted, but I'm still appreciative of it because Kansas City hasn't been in the Super Bowl before these 3 in a very, very long time. So,
what is the first Super Bowl you remember?
First Super Bowl I remember?
Yeah.
I'm trying to 04? 05, something like that.
Okay, so you've seen 17, 18 Super Bowls, something like that. Okay, so you went quite a while without seeing your beloved Kansas City Chiefs in the Super Bowl. Okay.
Yeah, a lot of Tom Brady. I've seen a lot of Tom Brady.
You have your history, your own personal history of watching Super Bowls has been Tom Brady. But I was just checking on that. I was just curious as to how much you had to struggle and suffer without seeing your team. And so how big was the payoff when you finally got to see him? It wasn't like you became a Chiefs fan in 2016 and then, 2 years later, they're in the Super Bowl.
Oh, no. I am not a bandwagoner fan.
Nice.
I've been a Chiefs fan for basically my entire life.
Okay.
In 2012, Kansas City went 2-14 and had 6 Pro Bowlers. So they had triple the amount of Pro Bowlers as they did wins that season. That was very frustrating because I knew there was talent on that team, but they couldn't convert it into anything meaningful other than the first or second overall pick in the draft.
At the Central Michigan tackle or guard, who was that? Eric Fisher.
Yeah, I don't know.
You don't know?
I don't remember.
I do. I just let you know. Yes, Eric Fisher. And I can't keep the Michigan directional schools. Can't keep them clear. I always know when somebody went to either Central Michigan, Western, or Eastern, but I can't ever keep those three separate.
Yeah, it is confusing for how many directional Michigan schools are there. But Mark, let me ask you just straight up, who wins?
Well, I took great pride in predicting Super Bowl games correctly for a long, long time, and I really have lost track the last probably 5 seasons in terms of my Super Bowl predictions. The last one I really remember was, I picked the Patriots to beat the Rams. That might have been the last one. During this Chiefs run, I don't think I really had an official Super Bowl pick. And so we'll go back to making official Super Bowl picks. And I will say that I am going to go with Philadelphia winning this game 34-27.
Okay. That's fine. But let me give you a little bit of pushback, okay? Which team do you think has the better quarterback?
Kansas City.
Which team has the better head coach?
Kansas City is the more accomplished head coach. I don't know who's the better head coach right today, now.
Well, I think right now it's got to be Andy Reid.
Why
as the better head coach?
Why?
Because he had the same record as the Philadelphia Eagles, despite being in the more difficult conference. The AFC, in my opinion, is just clearly better than the NFC.
When did that flip? The NFC was clearly the better conference not too long ago.
Well, it's flipped pretty recently, but I'd say over the last few years, it's AFC. I mean, you got the Chiefs, the Ravens, Bills, Bengals.
Okay.
That are just all great teams.
Well, once you get to a 14-3 record, I understand the Chiefs did it against a better conference, but nobody's going through the season undefeated. So once you reach that kind of rarefied type of record, okay.
Right.
But I don't necessarily think that proves that Andy Reid's a better coach than Sirianni.
Right. Well, Sirianni, this is only his, second year?
Sure.
I mean, there's been plenty of coaches who've had a great moment, but haven't had great long-term success. And Andy Reid having great long-term success, I value greatly.
Oh, absolutely. If you held a gun to my head and said you had to take one of these two as a head coach for your team next season, I take Andy Reid in a heartbeat because of what he's proven. But I don't know who's a better coach right this second. Yes, Andy Reid is the safer selection, and there's no comparing the two resumes. Andy Reid's like 30 years older. And so Sirianni, who knows? This could be his one, as you just mentioned, this could be his one splash in directing a team to a Super Bowl, or we could look back 10 years from now and he's gone to 4 Super Bowls. Who knows?
Yeah, who knows? But I mean,
he got fired by Andy Reid at one point, correct?
Yeah, these two coaches actually played coach for the opposite team before, which is interesting. I don't know if that's ever happened before in Super Bowl history.
Yes, boy, that would. Oh, so Andy Reid, yes. So that's a great. Has anybody ever been a head coach for a Super Bowl team, and then coached another team against their former team in the, that's easy to run down. I could go through every Super Bowl and figure it out, but I'm not going to do that and bore everyone. But yeah, we could figure that out. But I don't know. That's a whew. Yeah,
Yeah, that
if
would
it's
take a lot
happened,
of
it's
work.
been one time, because
Right.
that's difficult to imagine.
This is also the first time where two brothers are going head to head
Yeah,
on the
that's
field.
great. Yeah,
Now, it
gonna be
did
fun.
happen with coaches when Baltimore
Sure.
played San Francisco,
Of course, yes,
the
the
Harbaugh
Harbaughs,
brothers.
sure. But we will not see the Kelsey brothers on the field at the same time. It's not like it's a left tackle taking on a defensive tackle. But yes, they're
Well,
both on either
well,
side, and they're both prominent players.
well, there is one scenario where it could happen. Let's say Philadelphia needs a Hail Mary to win the game. Sometimes they put in the tallest player. The Patriots did it with Gronkowski, and they lost during the Miami Miracle game. So it could happen. It's not
Yes.
completely off the board.
Gronk hadn't taken too many tackling drills to prepare for that situation, I'm guessing, that year.
No, they lost that game. Miami pitched the ball twice and ran it for like a 70-yard touchdown.
That was my point. That Gronk couldn't tackle the guy that ran it in the last, the Kenyon Drake, I believe, the
Yes, it was
Alabama star. Yes.
So it could happen. We can't just completely rule it off the board.
I am not even going to scan through all the Super Bowls to try to figure out your first point, because I don't think that that's ever happened. No, we haven't even had. How many coaches? You'd have to start with how many coaches have coached two Super Bowl teams, two different franchises. That's very rare.
I saw that the last 8 winners of the coin toss of this game have lost the Super Bowl.
Okay, we'll be looking out for that. Okay.
Do you think that streak could continue today? And first off, how rare do you think that streak is? Like, what are the odds of that happening in the first place?
Well, I can tell you what the odds are. They're only 50% for the second year, and then you multiply that by 50% every time. It's got to be like 1 or 2% chance that that's going to happen. I like that one.
And do you think it'll be heads or tails?
Heads or tails? I'm going to go with heads.
Yeah.
So what's been the consecutive streak? Do we know?
2 heads in a row, and then it was a bunch of tails.
Okay.
So
but the winner, I got
tails has the lead still.
I got you. The team that won the toss, but they didn't obviously make the same selection all of those times. Okay.
Right. So it was the last 2 times have been heads, but way before, like for something like 6, 7, tons of times in a row, it was tails.
Yeah, I would think if there are coaches out there, head coaches, especially in this information age, that are extremely superstitious, that they would have like a research team go through all of those factors through Super Bowl history to determine, okay, do we want to take heads or do we want to take tails? If we, all those superficial things that don't matter. Yes.
Oh yeah, you got all sorts of strange things you can make picks on. Like, I mean, I've heard of what was the first song, what was the last song that the Super Bowl halftime performer is going to do, what color shirt or dress will they wear, all sorts of wacky things that you can't prick in a normal game. But
well, I got to say that I don't know who's performing at halftime. I typically check out at halftime.
It's Rihanna this year.
Rihanna. I did hear that because there was some kind of commercial about her not being seen for however many years. Is this like a big comeback for her?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I don't know.
I'm not your style of music.
Well, I'm not a big Rihanna fan, but do you have any family members that just watch this game because of the commercials?
No.
Okay. And do you buy into it that people watch this game more for the commercials than the actual game itself?
No.
Okay. And why do you think that?
It's a myth.
Okay. Why do you think that's
absolutely a myth? Well, for one thing, do people watch the AFC and NFC championship games for the commercials? Is that a discussion point? No, of course not. It's all about football and arguably the best day of football of the year. because you don't have all the hoopla and you have two great games or two great matchups at least. Well, we had 53 million people in America watch the championship games, and we'll have about double that, I believe, is typically the number. 105 million, something like that, are going to watch the Super Bowl. So not all these additional people are going to just watch for the commercials. I'm doing the math on that.
Okay, so you're bringing actual hard factual data, because
I'm doing my best.
I was going into it. Maybe people want to see the creativity of the commercials. Like a few years ago, you had one of the first ever live commercials. That was pretty cool.
What was that?
They were on some cowboy set or something, and to tell it was live, the guy gave the actual score of the game when the commercial was filmed. So it's like they said it's 21-10, it's the third quarter, 6:58 to go or something like that. And that's how you could tell the commercial was actually being filmed in real time.
Okay. Well, maybe I'm becoming too skeptical or too hard to please or something, but I think back when I was younger that I was all into the football. The commercials didn't matter to me, but it was a bonus. Obviously, they're not playing football during the commercials. You might as well watch the commercials. And I was impressed by many of the commercials and thought they were clever, funny, or whatever. I couldn't recall any commercials over the last like 20 or 25 years. I can't even think of any.
Okay.
I don't know that I've even paid attention to them.
Okay.
Because I've been largely disappointed. And that doesn't make any sense because the technology is so much better to make crafty, clever, unique commercials now. It must be like movies. Like I think movies were better made years ago, but the movies today should be better because the technology is so much better.
Do you think that could be a nostalgic point for you?
Yeah, obviously. Yeah, it is. I'm sure that it is. I guess I just get disappointed the more and more I see movies, and I don't watch a whole lot of movies, but when I see newer movies, especially if they're action adventure movies, the blowing up of aircraft and buildings and people flying through the air and grabbing hold of, wires that are hanging 50 feet above, Manhattan and stuff. It's like, can you give me something a little bit more creative? This is done in every movie, and these fight scenes go on for like 12 minutes, and it's like, okay, you're not impressing me with how many flips these guys can do, and that they should have been killed like 84 times. It's just a bit much.
I feel like you've been meaning to get that off your chest for a while, Mark. I'm glad I gave you an outlet.
I'm taking this Super Bowl pregame to complain about everything that I think is just overdone and just largely a bore about entertainment in the United States these days, I guess.
Yeah, you got anything else you want to rail about the entertainment?
I've got a whole lot of things I could rant about, but you don't want to hear it.
Oh, that was a pretty good rant you had there, Mark. What do you think about the Super Bowl halftime show, the complexity nature of how it is? Like, Katy Perry was on a tiger one year. Lady Gaga fell from the top of the stadium.
Yeah.
50 Cent did his club scene upside down. What do you think about the complex nature?
Well, for as much as, again, I could care less about that stuff, don't want to see it, I understand that has to be part of it, because basically the deal is that they're lip syncing. This isn't real live music. There's no way they can sing under these conditions. There are certainly people in the past that have done it, but that's never going to happen. So what's impressive about the music when somebody's lip syncing? I just don't understand. So you're just listening to the radio play of that song. So you might as well do something visually that's going to wow someone. I don't know what can be done that's going to actually be interesting. I don't know what else could be done, but yeah, I guess so. I know that it goes on too long. That's for sure.
Yeah, it takes longer than normal. And Marquez Valdez-Scantling, one of my favorite Kansas City Chiefs players that did great in the Cincinnati game, he asked and I don't know if he ever got his answer. He asked if he could watch Rihanna during the halftime show on his Twitter feed instead of actually going to the locker room.
I hope his coach did not respond to him. If I was his coach, I wouldn't even respond to that.
So I've got 2 more questions for you.
Or maybe my response would be, you can watch the halftime show. You can watch us play the first half. You can watch us play the second half. You can watch the entire thing if you'd like. That's your choice.
Okay, that's fair enough. I've got 2 more questions for you, Mark. Who's the Super Bowl MVP?
Well, if I was laying a bet, I'd have a different selection because, of course, you're looking for that sleeper selection, somebody just slightly under the radar. And I know that the wide receiver for the Eagles, AJ Brown had a great season, but I don't expect the Eagles to of course, they're run oriented. So if I lean on my selection, we've only had one losing player win a Super Bowl MVP, so the winner is going to produce the MVP. So we'll go with Miles Sanders, the running back for Philly.
Okay. Do you have and the final question I'll ask you, Mark, is you've been promoting this Great Oreo Challenge.
Yes.
And I haven't said anything, but I thought you would do it during the Super Bowl. Is that the case?
No, we will not be doing. We will just spotlight the Super Bowl, talk about the Super Bowl, talk about college football, whatever anyone wants to talk about. But we'll be back after the game, everybody, to talk about the Super Bowl and whatever else in the world of football you'd like to talk about. But yes, the Great Oreo Challenge, that's not under my control. I'm merely the messenger. I am just going to act when instructed.
Okay. And you have not been instructed at this time?
Yes. When I'm instructed on when that glorious day will come, then we will go to action. Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Mark.
Thanks, DeReal. Appreciate you. All right. DeReal MVP is quick on the trigger. Boom. Kicks us off tonight. And again, we are just about an hour away from the Super Bowl. Does anyone know who is singing the national anthem? I assume we still sing the national anthem at the Super Bowl, or has that been outlawed or something? Have we canceled that or something? Singing the national anthem at the Super Bowl? No, that's been nixed at a number of other sporting events, from what I understand. All right, welcome into the Voice of College Football. Appreciate everybody being here. We've dropped a link in the chat. Please call us up and talk to us if you'd like to talk Super Bowl. We had our buddy Ballard on the line. I think he dropped off. Therefore, the lines are clear. All right. Going to go into my Super Bowl analysis, I guess. And this is in preparation for our NFL channel. No, I shouldn't even say that. We have no plans for an NFL channel. For as much as I would love to start one, do not have those resources right now. But okay, we have in this game, we've got the number one pass offense in the, I was going to say the nation. I'm in college football lingo, of course. The number one pass offense in the NFL, the Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes, and the number one pass defense on the other side in the Philadelphia Eagles. This has only happened 3 times. This is just the 3rd time in 57 Super Bowls that we've had the number one pass offense and the number one pass defense. And the other 2 times, does anyone know when the number one passing offense took on the number one pass defense? Any thoughts here? Going once, going twice, going 3 times. Does anyone know what Super Bowls those would have been? Number one pass offense against the number one pass defense. That would have been the Seattle-Denver Super Bowl about 10 years ago. Let's see, 2013, 9 years ago. So Peyton Manning, Broncos, number one pass offense. The Legion of Boom, the Seattle defense. That, of course, was the number one pass defense and safety on the first play of the game. Remember that? The bad snap went by Peyton Manning. He wasn't ready for it and went through the end zone, and the Broncos got pummeled by the Seahawks. That was a shutout at halftime, wasn't it? It was like 29-0 at half. 22-0, 29-0. Let's see. Our final score was I do know all the Super Bowl scores, but that one escapes me right this second. It was an odd score. I'm going to screw it up. It was like 43-10. 43-8. I think that was the final score. 43-8. So we do have that. And the other time that a number one pass offense took on a number one pass defense was the Rich Gannon Raiders against the Derek Brooks, Warren Sapp, John Lynch, Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense, and they got throttled. Gannon threw 5 picks in that game, 2 pick sixes. Very odd Super Bowl MVP in that game for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Hassan Reddick, this guy has been a menace. He's got 19.5 sacks. Philadelphia led the NFL in rush rate and sack rate. And keep in mind, if you watch the AFC Championship game, Patrick Mahomes hobbled with an ankle injury. Now he's had 2 weeks to continue to recover from that, but he's going to get chased around in this one. Kansas City, and trying to protect him, they have the number one pass block win rate for you NFL nerdy junkies on stats. You'll like that one. Gregory with an odd kind of a fun fact here that Nancy Wilson of Heart did the national anthem for one of the Seattle Super Bowls. So it was either the win that we just mentioned or the loss against the Patriots. Of course, the Seahawks should have won both of those games. They handed a Super Bowl trophy to Tom Brady instead. Philadelphia, Kansas City, neither one of these teams trailed during the postseason. Never trailed. That's only happened one other time that two teams met in the Super Bowl and they never trailed during the postseason. And of course, this is becoming more difficult to do with more playoff games. But the only other time that happened was Eagles-Patriots in 2004. Of course, that was the time that Donovan McNabb lost his lunch. I did gain a lot of respect in that Super Bowl for Terrell Owens, in which he had the broken leg or the broken bone in his leg, and he played and had a really good game against the Patriots, but the Eagles lost that game. Also, that was the Super Bowl of probably my greatest fantasy football win of all time. I've never played fantasy football. I've never played one season of fantasy football. Played fantasy baseball for a long time. Really enjoyed that. Was a big fantasy football. I wasn't a big fantasy baseball guy, like a hardcore, but I enjoyed playing. Never played more than one league. It was always just, okay, one league, that's all I can handle. Never played fantasy football. However, there at the worldwide leader, that particular Super Bowl, Eagles, Patriots, somebody came up with a fantasy playoff league. And so this was just for the playoffs. And we had to select a player on all the positions, and we had to select defense and special teams and everything. And I figured, you know what? Maybe the best way to approach this is to take who I believe is going to go to the Super Bowl instead of picking the best players. You know, Peyton Manning may compile the best stats in the first playoff game and lose, and he's gone. So it was a compilation of all the stats throughout the playoffs. So I figured, maybe my best shot of winning this thing with like 87 people in it was to predict first who's going to be in the Super Bowl. Well, my pick was Eagles Patriots. So I did nothing but select all Patriots and all Eagles. And I was like in 19th place entering the Super Bowl. So nobody was even looking at me in terms of being in contention of winning this big pool. We threw in like $20 each. So we had like $1,600 on the line or something. I think we threw in 20, I would guess, $20. But somebody figured out that they thought, you know, Mark's going to win this. They figured this out when they were looking, everybody, how it is. You play fantasy sports and you're down to the Super Bowl and everybody's like looking at the standings, trying to figure out who's going to win. Is this guy in third place going to jump because he's got X, Y, and Z? And somebody looked at it. They were like, Mark's going to win this thing. Everybody was like, what? He's like in 19th place. Well, I picked everybody from the Eagles and the Patriots. So every play of the game, I'm just racking up points and got the big fantasy win. So that was my big fantasy football accomplishment. And considering that's the only time I've ever played, that was pretty good. Got Super Bowl predictions from everyone. We got One Scoop John with Eagles over the Chiefs 28-17. So that Philly defense is coming to play tonight. Stepping back into college football, Sports Talk 101 and others, Alex Grinch should be fired. I placed that poll on our USC channel. I flat out said, should Alex Grinch be fired or should he have been fired this offseason? And an overwhelming percentage of what I would expect were mostly USC fans said, yes, get rid of him. USC was 124th in the nation in yards per play defense. That's like an Iowa offensive statistic. Like, how is that possible? I know they played some good offenses, of course, in the Pac-12. The Pac-12 was arguably the best offensive league in the country this year. But seriously, USC didn't play Oregon. They could have had a game against Bo Nix and probably would have finished last in the nation in yards per play defense. We've got Jason chiming in. He thinks Michigan's going to win the Super Bowl. No, he's got the Eagles over the Chiefs 38-24. John would love to see Alex Grinch hang around, and he would even give to that. And John, I don't want to mess up your fan. The more folks we have on here, you got to pardon me because I can't keep track of everybody's teams. I believe John's an LSU fan, right? Did I mess that up, John? Let me know. Coming up on Monday night, we've got our USC show at 11 p.m. Eastern Time, 8 Pacific with Matt Zemek from Trojans Wire. I don't know if I'm going to come up with a off-season live schedule. Should I? Do you guys care? Do you guys want to make sure that you know when we're going live each week? Because we've got the 10 or 11 shows that we do the live streams, but we want to remind everyone again that we've got the Amazon link in the description section of all the videos. So please check it out. The Amazon link in the description section of all the videos. And we do have an item of the week. You golfers, it's a good item for you. Our item of the week, we've got some golf covers. So check that out on the community page. Grab that link and you can select, if you're the real MVP, you can get your Kentucky Wildcat golf covers. Jason, Michigan golf covers. It's really good stuff. So we will have an item of the week as long as I forget to change that out every week. That could be a difficulty, but for the most part, we will do that. And again, the Great Oreo Challenge is coming. As soon as I get the go-ahead, as soon as I get the thumbs up, as soon as I get the call from on high, we will be going forward with the Great Oreo Challenge. Also, we've got our Discord and Patreon. So we'll leave the link at some point in the chat. Join us on Patreon, $5 a month. We love college football, all of us. And if you love college football, you've got to be locked in with us because this is the voice of college football right here. So you go to Discord through our Patreon link and you sign up on Discord and you're good to go to talk college football 24/7, 365 with the knuckleheads. And you get requested exclusive content from me as well. And my goodness, I know this is way in advance because it's only February and we don't see any football until August, but our buddy Steve Merrill from Pro Sports Info, or what's he on now? Wager Talk with Steve Merrill, 13-1 against the spread. You could have paid for Patreon for yourself and 1,000 other people for a lifetime off of 13-1 against the spread. Keep in mind, every Thursday, listen up, everyone, every Thursday, because people love this show, but we got to do better in terms of bringing in more folks. And we appreciate all the kind comments and all the support for this show. But every Thursday at 5 Eastern, okay, we go live with Steve Dace from Michigan Podcast, and we square off on one major college football topic. Steve and myself go toe-to-toe on one major college football topic. We may agree, we may disagree, we may partially agree and disagree, but we go live at 5 p.m. Eastern time. What we are going to do differently this Thursday is, I know that it's difficult to get the link and get here immediately so you don't miss anything. So what we're going to do is we're going to go live earlier than 5 p.m. Eastern time. So you're going to have to look at just me and listen to just me for 15 to 30 minutes. That will lead us into the show, The One with Steve Dace at 5 p.m. Eastern time. So I'll be here at about 4:30, and I'm kind of the lead act. I'm the opening act solo, and I'll get the crowd warmed up, and we will go live. So we've got the crowd here settled, ready to roll. Then we, bam, hit you up with the one big college football topic that Steve and I will debate every Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern time, but you can join us 15 to 20, 30 minutes early. I will try to wind it up at 4:30, and we can build up the crowd that way. It took me like 6 weeks. We've done 5 shows, plus we did a pilot at the beginning, and it took me 6 weeks to figure out, okay, well, it is a live show, and it's hard for people to get here right on time because I'm not on your end of the deal, so I don't really know how difficult it is for you guys to find the feed. Like if you see, okay, Mark's going to be live at 10 o'clock, and you jump on here, I don't know how that process goes because I'm not on your end of it. So I know that we just start. As soon as we open up live, I kick right into it and we go. So it takes 5-10 minutes for people to get here to enjoy the show. So we will make it much easier on you this Thursday with a little pregame prior to the one. And we would like to continue that show. So understand what that means. Please, your support. We would love to get a sponsor for the show. We would love to get a sponsor for this show. We've not had a sponsor here at the Voice of College Football for a few months, several months since the end of the season. So we would love to get a sponsor. We can let you know how we can benefit you. So if you own a business or are connected to somebody who owns a business, jump on and I can lay out all the numbers and let you know, and we will work it out so it benefits you. Jason's here. Thank you so much for the super chat contribution. Mark, any plans for the Super Bowl? No plans. I'm here. I'm here with all of you. I'm going to watch the game and eat food that's not good for me. And then we're going to do a post game. But yes. Yeah, because of my current situation and our living situation and family situation, no, we don't have any plans for this particular Super Bowl other than to watch the Super Bowl. I could share a story from about 20 years ago. We were at church, and it must have been a new church. I think we were attending this church, not for the first time, but for the first time after just a few months of being at this church. And it was Super Bowl Sunday. And somebody asked me, I don't know if my wife at the time was there, my kids, I don't remember exactly, but I do remember the individual, just the nicest guy that you could ever imagine. Can't remember the guy's name. I think it was Kelvin. He taught the kids in the children's ministry, and he was just like one of these guys that can just relate to kids. Like I could go into I would watch the kids sometimes. I would be on the schedule to watch the kids, and I was the guy that could roll around with them, wrestle with them, do those sorts of things. But then you had those people that just knew how to talk to kids. Anyway, he asked me about going to their Super Bowl party. And I said, you don't want me to go to your Super Bowl party. And it's funny because my son sent me a clip of a Bill Burr appearance on a late night show, of which he basically my son sent this to me, and I think he posted this on Facebook, and he said, this is you. And basically, Bill Burr was saying the same thing. He said he was approached about going to a Super Bowl party. He's like, you don't want me at your Super Bowl party. And, my friend there at church said, why not? Don't you like football? He didn't know me that well. Don't you like football? And I said, no, I really like football. Well, why don't you come to our Super Bowl party? I said, well, I don't want to be watching the game with a bunch of people that don't want to watch I'm going to be really intently watching the game. And he said, oh, are you a Patriots fan? And I said, no, I could care less about the Patriots. Oh, I think it was the Patriots Panthers Super Bowl. He said, well, you're a Panthers fan. Really? That's strange. I said, no, I don't care about the Panthers. I really don't care who wins the game. He said, okay, but you have to intently watch the Super Bowl. And I said, yeah, it's a big deal, and I want to watch the game. I don't want to be surrounded by a bunch of morons who are talking during the game, and I can't hear what's going on. And they want me, they're telling stories. And no, I don't want that. So I've turned down a lot of Super Bowl parties throughout the years. Now, I wouldn't be so apt to not show up for a Super Bowl party because my intensity level has dropped considerably. But that was a long time ago. And yeah, I did not want to miss a play of the Super Bowl. This was during the time in which, I could pretty much recite every play in Super Bowl history at that point. All right. Hopefully, all of you have Super Bowl plans. If you want Super Bowl plans, or you're just going to watch the game with a friend or with a few people that are big football fans or with a bunch of knuckleheads, whatever is best for you. I hope that you've got the Super Bowl surroundings that you would like to have. All right. John, thank you so much for reminding everyone and supporting here. He says, sponsored the show and get in front of an audience of nearly 40,000 subscribers, not even counting any team channels we simulcast on. Yes, inquire MarkRogersTV at Gmail. I will also drop the link back in the chat. And of course, we will take you up to kickoff. Do we know who's singing the national anthem? And again, I repeat, are we allowed to still sing the national anthem? Didn't know if that was still a thing that we were allowed to do. D-Lob 2010's got some wings on the grill. What are whole wings? Is that like boneless wings? Lemon pepper hot for me. Maybe you could cross promote on the Michigan podcast. Gregory, that's a great idea. Good for you. But that's up to Steve. So I will suggest that to Steve. But that's a phenomenal idea right there. because I believe a lot of Michigan fans have found us here at the Voice of College Football because of my appearances on a regular basis over on Michigan Podcast. D-Lob 2010 will sponsor the show for $10. I'll make you this deal, D-Lob 2010. I will produce shorts. Do you know what those are? I will produce those for sponsorship for $10 per. We will do those. Those are a minute long, and we can work something out there. A minute times 60, that pretty much puts me in the range of how much we should be making here per minute. Gregory, Stephen A. and Mark watch the Super Bowl. I don't know what that's alluding to, but I don't know how many Super Bowls Stephen A. Smith, if that's who we were talking about, has necessarily watched. I consider Stephen A. pretty much just an NBA guy. I've not heard a whole lot of insight come out of his mouth concerning anything other than the NBA and a little bit of boxing. We are just about 45 minutes away from kickoff. All right, Sports Talk 101. Chris Stapleton is performing the national anthem. Is that a country singer? I don't know who that is. I'm going to look up Chris Stapleton. Let's look this person up. Who here knows who Chris Stapleton is? I assume some of you do, but I'm guessing some of you don't. Chris Stapleton. Yes, Weston. Sorry about the Oklahoma show. Jason could not make it, and he could not make it last second. So I wasn't able to recover, and he didn't get back to me in regards to we were going to try to salvage the show for this week. So we will hopefully be back at it this Wednesday. Chris Stapleton. I'm guessing he's a big deal. Oh, I've never seen this guy. He looks like a country guy. Well, he sings Tennessee Whiskey. There you go. That's all you need to know right there. Starting over. You know, I'm guessing I've heard some of his songs. I'm a little bit more of a country music fan than I used to be. I used to really rip on country music, but you know, I've been put onto country music by certain individuals, and it's a good listen. It's a good listen. Yes, again, Weston, I hate when we can't deliver on a show, and I need to do better in regards to building up the pool of contributors for all of our shows, and that's what we're in the process of doing as well, so we don't miss any shows. And I remind everyone out there, and I posted this a few months ago, that if you have any suggestions for media guests that you would like to see here at the Voice of College Football, whether that's on a regular show like the Michigan show, the Miami show, etc., please let us know. There you go, Wet Blanket. We are hearing from everyone here. We got JJ had to let the cat outside. Connor Johnson looking for a Chris Foot weekly show. Well, Connor, if you would like to host that, you and Chris could go nuts. And we can certainly do that. I have turned the channel over to a selection of people to do their own shows. So we got Tony, Tim, and Rick, of course, with the Pac-12 show that's coming up on Wednesday night. Everyone be looking out for that on Wednesday night. So maybe this could be the next edition. You and Chris. And I don't even want to think about what that could look like or sound like. But hey, maybe it would just take off. Maybe it would become the most popular thing ever aired here at the Voice of College Football. Conspiracy Hour with Connor and Chris. Hey, you got the illiteracy of that. It's down. Very nice. Talking about content, we released earlier today with SMU and San Diego State almost assuredly headed to the Pac-12, and Fresno State being an outside contender candidate. We looked at their success against the Pac-12 in recent years and then projected it forward. Check out the video. I've done the same with Oklahoma and Texas. Got a request to do the same with USC and UCLA. We will do that. We will also do anything related to realignment that makes sense, that is reasonable, that is factual, that is based in something in truth. And then we will go forward with my projections, my speculation in terms of how I would, let's say, for example, divide the league, construct the schedule, and so forth. So we will do that with, and again, we've got those videos out there with OU versus the SEC, Texas versus the SEC, and then the three schools that could be entering the Pac-12 and how they project against the Pac-12. Man, I got so many content ideas to get to. I was going to run through those, but you'll see them. They're coming. They are coming soon. A couple people really liked the look at Georgia back-to-back champions versus the Alabama repeat championship teams in 2011-12. We compared them to USC in 03 and 04, although some folks out there not happy with me including USC since they did not win the BCS championship game one of those years. And then, of course, Nebraska being the fourth of the repeat champions going all the way back to the 70s and comparing those teams. Oh, yeah. We're even if nobody watches this, I still probably for my own satisfaction will go through every season in college football history and the national championship and rework and review and properly award the national championship. Some of you know what I'm talking about. Others do not. It's a treat, folks. What can I say? It's a treat. Willie Nelson's still kicking, right, Roger? He's still around. He's got to be like 90. Willie Nelson. Willie Nelson came to ESPN, but I think he was going to be there during the day, and I wasn't going to make like a special drive down to ESPN. I worked that night. I wasn't going to especially drive down there just to see Willie Nelson. He's not much to look at. But Willie Nelson is, man, he was born in 33. So, yeah, he'll be 90 in April. Yeah, Willie Nelson, always on my mind, on the road again. When Willie and Waylon Jennings would get together, now that was a good time. Waylon Jennings is no longer with us, is he? I got to think. Yeah. Waylon Jennings. Oh, man, he's been gone for a while. 2002. He was only 65. Johnny Cash, of course. Awesome. Gregory, what artist will first perform on the Super Bowl as a hologram? Elvis must exist as a hologram. Yes. Yeah. Jason, my favorites are Johnny Cash, Hank Williams Jr., and Garth Brooks. Man, we've got some country music folks in here, don't we? Yes, John reminding everyone, please join the show. I'm getting lonely. Like to talk to somebody. Call me up. We used to have the issue. I don't know if it's the StreamYard link that causes people to to hesitate. But the issue we had, so the reason we went to the StreamYard link was we used to have a call-in line. And there was a gentleman who paid for that, which was extremely nice of him until he didn't pay for it. But anyway, he took care of that. So we had a call-in line. Then we determined it wasn't working. My earpiece and the whole connection wasn't working with the audio board on a particular day. So I thought, well, we can just use the StreamYard link and I can bring in the viewers just like we can with the contributors who come on the show. And people immediately told me it sounds better than people calling on the phone, and people could have the option of either showing their face or not. And we respect either decision, of course. And so since then, and it doesn't cost anything. So since then, we have gone with the StreamYard link. However, I have noticed that less people call. Because my goodness, we used to have, when we would go with the call-in line, there would be way too many calls. Way too many calls. I guess we're going to stay on the music path here. Jason, Randy Travis, Solo, Tech likes Tupac, Elvis, and MJ. That's interesting. Top three, kind of similar to my son's top three. The last time I checked, he had a very odd top three. Willie Nelson won a Grammy. I have not heard a Willie Nelson song in forever, you know. More Super Bowl notes. I came prepared, folks. I left off with the fact that neither of these teams has trailed in the postseason. The only other time that's happened, the Patriots-Eagles Super Bowl of 2004, January 2005. But then I took off on my fantasy football story that everyone was enthralled by, of course. All right. Pat Mahomes and Jalen Hurts are 1-2 and 1-2 in QBR and TD to pick ratio this year. It is the youngest Super Bowl quarterback matchup ever. The youngest prior to Super Bowl 57 was the Montana Marino Super Bowl in 85. That was played where? The 85 Super Bowl was played at a particular stadium that only hosted this one Super Bowl. I'm about 99% sure that it never hosted another Super Bowl. That's another thing I've lost track on. Who are these announcers for the Super Bowl? Yeah, Greg Olson and Kevin Burkhardt. Who would have ever thought Kevin Burkhardt would be doing the play-by-play for a Super Bowl? I guess when Joe Buck and Troy Aikman took off for ESPN, it just landed Kevin Burkhardt in the number one role. And I'm not saying he doesn't do a good job. I just never anticipated that he would be the number one guy at Fox, but he does a fine job. Greg Olson, though, I'm going to have to listen to him. He hasn't. Well, you know what happens is that I watch the Red Zone. So I never hear these analysts anymore unless they're playoff. During the playoffs, I did. I noticed on social media that this became a thing a few weeks ago. The criticism of Tony Romo. And it was funny because I saw some comments about how awful Tony Romo is now. And I thought, you know what? I've made this. I saw that on social media on a Monday after the Sunday games. And I had just made that comment to a buddy of mine who asked me, what do you think of Tony Romo? And I said, you know what? When he first hit the scene, I thought he was phenomenal. He blew me away. I did not expect him to be that good. I love to listen to his enthusiasm combined with, of course, his knowledge. but now he just sounds like a clown, and he's just blabbering on all over the place. And I read it. I glanced through a few articles. I rarely read any articles. I kind of skim through, and there was a lot of talk of how Tony Romo basically is he asserted himself immediately, proved himself, and now that he proved himself, just kind of takes the week off and doesn't prepare like he did initially. And it's if that's the case, it shows. It shows. It's awful. And I rarely analyze or criticize announcers on here. I do at times. I think a few of you know who I don't like, but I don't point them out because I just don't think it's my place. As long as they're capable and competent and worth their position. You know, there's some people that are just complete fools that have been given broadcasting jobs, and they're just, it's sometimes his personal preference that I don't necessarily care for certain announcers, but they're good at what they do, and a lot of people like them. But there's other people that are just clowns. They're terrible. They don't know what they're doing. They don't know anything. It's just an embarrassment. But I just brought that up because Burkhardt and Olson just came on the screen. B-Bean, appreciate you being here. Who is Mark's favorite announcer of all time? Wow. I don't have a favorite announcer of all time. Nor Wooding. We certainly are on completely different planets on that statement. Favorite announcer of all time? Well, certainly when it comes to college football, I would have to go with Keith Jackson all time. Who's, of course, in another sense, follow me here, the voice of college football. If you look up the voice of college football, you know what you're going to find? Me, Keith Jackson. They're completely different interpretations of the term, though. Of course, he was the actual voice, the pipes, the lungs, the voice, the vocal. We hear the voice of college football. We're the voice of college football. Far be it for me to say, but I will. I'm the voice of college football. That's more from a opinion standpoint in terms of having a perspective. Of course, Keith Jackson did not give his opinion. It was all just the voice of the game. Okay, yes. Keith Jackson, phenomenal. Most of the play-by-play guys in college football today, and there are some great ones, both the play-by-play and the analysts, most of the guys that get the best games, the guys that you initially think of, Fowler and Herbstreit, for example, they're extremely good. But I tend to like the guys that aren't the publicized guys, the guys that get the best games. Like Bob Wischusen and Dan Orlovsky are a great team. Dusty Dvorak and whoever they have recently put with him, it might be, I can't think of the play-by-play guy that they have put with him that's phenomenal. Brock Heward. And again, I can't come up with a play-by-play guy with Brock Heward. That's a great team. Great team. Yes, Norwooding. Dusty Dvorak is phenomenal. Again, the guy with Brock Heward and oh, well, can't find him. So, yeah, that would be my college football list. I would really have to, maybe we'll do that someday. I would really have to make an extensive list to make sure that I wasn't missing anyone. You know, it's easy for me to remember the guys from a million years ago, in addition to Keith Jackson. Al Michaels used to be tremendous on college football. I'm not a big fan of his doing the NFL, especially these days. When he first did it, yeah, on Monday Night Football, uh, I think Troy Aikman's really good as a and I'm not a Joe Buck hater like a lot of people are. I'm just okay with him. I think he's fine. Are we a ways away from the national anthem, I believe? Todd Blackledge, yes, a Dan Beast Media. Todd Blackledge and his partner Sean McDonough. They are great, and I believe Blackledge just left to go to one of the other networks. I don't know if he's probably not with McDonough. Greg McElroy is really good. I like Greg McElroy. And again, I, a lot of names are escaping me that most of these second and third tier guys are my favorite guys. Again, like Dvorak and Orlovsky and Heward. Davey, appreciate you being here. We left our Super Bowl prediction at 34-27 Eagles. Connor, Corey Brad is his favorite announcer. He keeps me entertained when I was on offense. Very nice. Harry Carey was a mess. So Harry Carey was entertaining because he was so bad. And I say that in all due respect because I'm sure he was a competent, if not really good, play-by-play guy. Cheryl Lee, somebody's singing. Well, that's not the national anthem. She's just singing, I guess. Harry Carey, by the time I started to watch him in the 80s, early 80s, Harry Carey was funny to listen to because you didn't know what was going to come out of his mouth and how many names he was going to mispronounce. So Harry Carey he was like a comedian. It was just such a joke. Bob Greasy, not a big fan of Bob Greasy's work. Better player than announcer. Now his son is better than he is. Brian Greasy's really good. I like Louis Riddick. I think he's good. Oh yeah, Bean, Brent Musburger back in the day, he was phenomenal. I liked him doing college football with Herb Street, and before that, Dick Vermeil and Eric Parsig. Oh shoot, the old CBS days when Brent Musburger used to do the NFL Today show on Sunday. And on Saturday, he would do college football games with Eric Parsegan in the 80s. Oh, yes. And before that, Eric Parsegan did the games with, well, no, I'm mixing guys up. I think it was Parsegan and Musburger. I don't know if Eric Parsegan, yes, he did. He worked with Keith Jackson, and Keith Jackson, of course, worked with Frank Broyles. That was a great team. Oh, you're too kind, Clint. Thank you so much for that. Yes, I was forced into action. People wanted to hear me do the play-by-play. Well, I think it was all those people that didn't have access to the game, so they wanted that. Phyllis George, yes. Vern Lundquist, yes. Again, in his prime. That, and this is an unfortunate thing, and I try to tread lightly here because I don't like to criticize older people who have obviously lost some of their skills. I might be on here in 30 years sounding like a certain leader of ours. No, I'm never going to sound like that. Take that back. I take that back. I will never be that bad. I will remove myself from public from the public before I would ever subject anyone, even if only 13 people were watching, to that. But this is the unfortunate thing. It's like Dick Enberg. Dick Enberg. Oh, my word. One of the greats of all time. Tennis, college football. He would do the Rose Bowl with Merlin Olsen every year. NFL, Dick Enberg. He did local baseball, San Diego Padres, and then returned to that near the end of his career. But again, his last 10 years, not pretty. Vern Lundquist, again, there came a time when he needed to step away, and it should have been about 10 years sooner. So that's a bit unfortunate. Yes, Nora Wooding, I will have to read from a teleprompter. Yes, reminds me of the story of getting my first job, reading from the teleprompter. Oh, Pat Summerall. And what's funny, if you go back and listen to Pat Summerall's broadcasting now, he said so little. He knew when to just let the crowd, let the play, all that. Just tell the story. Madden and Summerall. Yes. Madden and Summerall. That was magic. Dan Beast Media, not a big Gus Johnson fan. Dick Enberg. Wow, you went strange on the spelling there, Gregory. But that's not important. CMU grad, except for the Enberg family. Enberg. No, it's Enberg. Enberg. How many Super Bowls did John Madden do? Well, keep this in mind. So back in the day, I don't know how they rotate this game anymore. They probably rotated between Fox, CBS, and NFL and NBC, since they all have an NFL contract. But for a long time, from the time I started watching, the first Super Bowl I truly remember was the 78 Super Bowl Cowboys Broncos, and that was a CBS game. And then Steelers Cowboys the next year was NBC, and it just alternated NBC, CBS, NBC, CBS. Well, of course, CBS lost the NFL and it went to Fox in the early 90s. Madden was with CBS, and of course, he wasn't going to stay with CBS when they didn't have the NFL. So that was about, I think, Madden and Summerall's last, if I'm not mistaken, their last game was the Niners Giants 1990 NFC Championship game. The famous George Martin hit on Joe Montana, knocked him out of the game. And then the Carl Banks fumble forced on Roger Craig that led to the Matt Barr field goal that stopped the possible three-peat for the 49ers. I believe that 1990 NFC Championship game was the final for Madden and Summerall on CBS. And then they went to Fox and they did, wasn't the last Madden Summerall game the Brady Patriots Super Bowl win over the Rams? I think that was the last one. Lynn Swan was okay. I will bypass that one. I was asked the other day by a buddy of mine to name the 10 greatest quarterbacks of all time. I then gave him a list of 20. And I'm pretty solid on that list, even though it came off the top of my head. Once I looked at it, I made a few little adjustments. I went 1 through 20. We'll have to release that at some point. Oh, we've got the Mark Jones and RG3 team. I like them. They're good. Enjoy them. Absolutely. RG3 jokes around way too much when he announces games. Does he really? I think he's pretty appropriate. He knows when it's okay. This is a really good game. This is a key moment. This is still important. I think it's more when, okay, he's got a little dead time or it's 40-13. So I got to entertain some people. Connor Johnson, who's the basketball guy that tells bang That's, of course, Marv Albert, who has done NFL games as well. Vin Scully, I don't know that anyone can really match Vin Scully's flawlessness. Vin Scully called baseball games like he was reading poetry. It was that refined and that beautiful. I don't know, in listening to Vin Scully from the time I was, because back then you would get the Saturday baseball game of the week, and if you were lucky, you got the double header. And then, of course, I had cable. So I grew up in an age where, so if some of you are just a little bit older than me, or were not fortunate enough to have cable at a fairly early age, then you remember when you were really scraping to find games. But I pretty much started my sports fandom at the same time that we got cable. So I I had baseball games on every night. They were on, I had TBS and WGN and the local Indians games, and so I was all set. But Vin Scully would do the Saturday games of the week with Tony Kubek. And oh my word, from the time I was 10 years old listening to Vin Scully until he was done. And I bossed, so to give you guys an idea of how much of a baseball fan I was, this will only give you one indication. I bought the baseball package, the ticket, every year from like 2005 on until 3 or 4 years ago. And now this is how things are in my life. I went from watching that thing, it was on all the time, baseball games all the time, to I can't remember who played in the World Series last year. I didn't watch any of it. Yeah, I won't even try to remember. The Astros and somebody. The Astros and the Phillies. Anyway, so I watched a lot of Vin Scully, heard a lot of Vin Scully. I don't know if the man ever misspoke in his life. Of course, we all misspeak. If you would go through like a 2-hour live stream of me, there's a number of times, I'm speaking off the top of my head, that I stumble on a word. Of course, that happens all the time. Vin Scully was flawless all the time. Flawless. It's a marvel. I got a greater appreciation for announcers, and I became more critical of some announcers once I went to college and took broadcasting myself, and then interned and got my own job and all that, and started in on the profession myself. Then I became more judgmental, but also appreciated them more, because when I'm doing the nightly news, doing the 6 and 10 o'clock sportscast on our local station, then you gain that appreciation because you know how difficult it is, and do play-by-play. And I started doing play-by-play when I got my first broadcasting job when I was 22. And so I was doing local high school football, basketball, and I was doing Ashland University football. And you realize how good these guys are. But then you also realize some of them, oh, he's really not as good as, and I won't name names. I've seen a few in the chat, but of some people that really aren't that good. When you're 25 years old and you hear some national guys and think, you marvel at some of them and how great they are, and others you're like, yeah, I'm about as good as he is. So anyway, Kurt Gowdy. I didn't catch a whole lot of Kurt Gowdy because that was about the end of his run, but he did do the Cowboys-Steelers Super Bowl, the second one. And for some of you that are bringing up Summerall and Madden, of course, the precursor to Summerall Madden was Summerall and Brookshire. They were good. CKS, I remember Saturdays growing up at noon for years was baseball, and Kurt Gowdy called the games. I don't remember Scully doing those games. Yeah, Kurt. Oh, my goodness, Vin Scully for years. He did them first with Tony Kubek, and then Bob Costas did them. I'm talking about the NBC games on Saturday afternoons. And then, of course, there used to be Monday Night Baseball. Do you guys remember Monday Night Baseball? And that was Howard Cosell. Oh, my goodness. Who else was on that broadcast? Later, it was Jim Palmer. Jim Palmer's a really good broadcaster. I don't remember. No. I know who that was. That was Don Drysdale doing Monday Night Baseball with Howard Cosell. Absolutely. Don Drysdale was great. Tony Kubek was really good. Tim McCarver. Okay, Tim McCarver, near the end of his run, not so much. When I first listened to Tim McCarver was when he did the Mets games on WWOR, and he was phenomenal. I learned more about baseball from Tim McCarver. Then 20 years later, got to be a little much when he was on Fox, but Merlin Olsen, yes. Yes. Of course, the Monday night booth was Howard Cosell, Frank Gifford, and Dandy Don. Yeah, and we're losing everybody under 50 years old right now. Howard Cosell is the GOAT. Well, I guess if you would ask him, if he would have been asked and he knew what that term meant, he would certainly agree with you. He certainly had his talents. I don't know if calling a football game was different. It was unique, and he put his personality on it. Oh yes, I'm a hero. If we want to dive into some basketball, Billy Packer was phenomenal. Those days with Billy Packer and Al McGuire. Dick Vitale, the best all time for basketball. Well, he's certainly enthusiastic, and I thank Dick Vitale for doing an interview with me one time. This would have been about when was this? The late 1990s. So I appreciate Dick Vitale taking time out to do a interview with me back then. So he's got a soft spot with me. Anybody who's taken their time out that's at that level that didn't need to do it gets my appreciation. But Petros Papadakis, yes, he's good. All right. We will take time out for the national anthem. We will let everyone watch the Super Bowl. And we will be back here after the game. Chiefs, Eagles, see you after the game. Thanks for being here. Enjoy Super Bowl 57.